Good morning. It's very nice to see you all again. How have you been? Is everything going well? Are you enjoying the convocation? And so last night I was at the Mother Center, Monks Ashram, and this morning I got ready, I dressed up with the robe, I went down to the ashram courtyard where we have our ashram dogs, and usually I play with them. And so the moment they saw me, one of the dogs, the female golden retriever, she looked at me as if to say, "Oh, come on. Where are you going now dressed like this? Come to play with me." And usually I play with them. And I often think possibly God sometimes thinks of us in that way. When we dress up, we act importantly, we think we know everything. And we realize we don't know one thing. And God says, "Oh, come on. What are you doing? Come and be with me. Come and play with me." And so I love dogs. I often, when I travel, I go to public lectures, and I'm away from Mother Center, or lecture in ashram, I bring a play ball. Don't worry, I washed it before I came. Actually, it's new. But this is the ball that we monks used to play with the dogs. And I learned a lot from them. Living in the moment, being playful, not taking anything seriously, feeling loved and giving love. That's something, isn't it? That's very important. And so, meanwhile, as I understand, you keep asking questions. And we monks and nuns offer answers, and you keep asking more questions. And we monks and nuns keep coming here to offer answers, and we love doing so because we love you, we feel for you. But this time, I have come up with some profound, deep, inspiring words this is serious, by Sri Gyanamata, by two of the most advanced women disciples of our Guru founder, Paramahansa Yogananda. Sri Gyanamata, Mother of Wisdom, and our beloved late President Sri Dayamata Ji, Mother of Compassion. And I'd like to use them as we begin our time together for a brief, mini guided meditation, a few moments of silence. So are you ready? I'll move to the harmonium. And so remember, this is a very powerful statement by Sri Gyanamata that can really give us a sense of perspective on all of our questions. She says, "One answer will cover all your questions." Let me read it to you again. One answer will cover all your questions. Turn to God. And so, how do we do it? Take a deep breath in, exhale. We inwardly turn to God. We close our eyes. She goes on to say, turn to God and fill your consciousness with the realization of His perfection. Slowly, deeply breathe in. At the top of the inhalation, hold momentarily. Exhale. Pause. Let us consciously immerse ourselves into the living, loving presence of God. This is turning to God within. Sri Gyanamata goes on saying, Let your weakness be dissolved in the worshipful thought of His strength. It is not necessary to explain things to God, for He knows your need before you speak. God knows our needs before we speak. And God is more ready to give than you are to ask. So pay attention now to these words of deep, profound wisdom from a woman who had realized God, who had become one with God, who had attained very high states of divine consciousness. We use these few simple words to meditate and go deep within. She says, when you meditate, turn away from everything except the one absorbing thought of God, of His overshadowing presence. In this way, you will become receptive, and healing will flow through body, mind, and soul. So the idea is to first be very calm within, to let go of everything but the desire to be with God, to feel God, to love God now. We reestablish that magic secret link with the Masters within our hearts and souls. And then according to our attunement and depth of intensity, of concentration and devotion, we become aware of this invisible, silent, great river of light, the silent, invisible river of love, peace and joy flowing through us. So visualize for a moment that you are immersed in this current of light, divine light, in this river of love, divine love. Keeping the eyes closed, the gaze lifted upward, gently focused inward at the point between the eyebrows, in the middle of the forehead. Now slowly, deeply exhale through the mouth. Now let us calmly, slowly breathe in. Top of the inhalation, hold the breath momentarily. Now let us exhale. Full, calm, long exhalation. At the end, pause. Now we forget the breathing, forget the breath. Let a portion of your awareness slide down from the forehead, from the spiritual eye, into the heart, the spiritual heart. And now quietly listen to these words of inspiration, this mini guided meditation given to us by Sri Daya Mataji. Beloved God, you are in me, I am in you. Let the mind dwell on this thought affirmation. Beloved God, you are in me, I am in you. With continuous repetition, feel the truth of what you are affirming. Feel that God's abundant life is flowing into you as strength, peace, guidance, joy. Whatever may be your material, emotional, or spiritual need. Feel that the constricting walls of fear, limitation, weakness, and loneliness are melting away as your being expands into His omnipresent embrace. And now, please repeat aloud after me this affirmation. Beloved God, you are in me. I am in you. You are in me. I am in you. Peace and joy, light and love, strength and wisdom are in me, in you, in me. Peace and joy, light and love, strength and wisdom are in me, in you, in me. Om Shanti, peace. Amen. Did you like the affirmation we just repeated together? You will find it in this booklet by Sri Dayamata, Enter the Quiet Heart, Creating a Loving Relationship with God. It's one of my favorite booklets that I highly recommend to many, many devotees. And I'll tell you more as I answer some of the questions, because one of our senior monastics that many of you possibly have known, Brother Nandamoy, who was the so-called contemporary disciple of our Guru founder, Paramahansa Yogananda. He lived with the Master. Toward the end of his life, so often he would just recommend that we all read this book by Sri Dayamata. When I would visit him in his senior care house at the Mount Washington Ashram, just by his chair, he had not one, but 2 copies, very worn, of this book. So he really made an impression. And he would say every morning, just open it and just read a few words. When we call to God from the quiet center of the heart, as we did it just a moment ago, with simple, sincere yearning to know Him, unfailingly we draw His response. that sweet presence of the Divine Beloved becomes our supreme reality. It brings complete fulfillment. It transforms our lives. Aren't these words beautiful? And they really help us to go straight to the core within our being, so we remember who we truly are. And then gradually all of our questions are answered, and all our worthwhile desires and spiritual ambitions are fulfilled. We remember. This morning before coming down, one of the brother monks in our monks' headquarters, so to speak, said, "Brother, take your name tag." So hopefully finally you remember who you are. And that's why we are here, to remember who we truly are. And so the first question someone asked, in one of his talks, Yogananda Ji says, discrimination is the fire that burns up desires. What does Guruji mean by that? How can we use discrimination in our daily lives to burn up our desires? Please give examples of how we can put this teaching into practice. Yes, it is a very beautiful spiritual teaching. Growing up in a countryside area in central northern Italy, I would love, in fall, winter months, I would love watching the farmers preparing the land for their next cultivation, for the next crop. And in one of their practices, we are talking about the 70s, in one of their practices, they would light fires on the surface of the ground. And the idea was to destroy any dead plants, anything from the previous crop, previous cultivation. But primarily, as I understood, the idea was that the fire would burn the weeds, the weed seeds and pests. And then the tilling of the soil, seeding, fertilizing, watering, and by springtime, beautiful new plants emerging, a nice new crop. And so similarly, in the soil of our consciousness, particularly in our subconscious mind, there are many seeds, and not all are good. Some of them are bad, very bad, even from previous lives, seeds of material tendencies, of worldly desires. It's our karma. And so Guruji explains that when we engage into sadhana, our spiritual practices, meditation, spiritual study, the faculty of buddhi, the higher discriminative wisdom, the higher mind awakens, agama, the directly perceiving faculty of the soul, agama, buddhi, these are Sanskrit words. You don't have to memorize them. Agama is intuition, which in all the ancient scriptures is always compared to a bright flame. Discrimination, a bright fire. Why? Because he roasts the seeds of material tendencies. Our Guru Paramahansaji explains this very well when he said, in the fire of self-realization and calmness, consume all the seeds of evil tendencies that lie ungerminated in your subconscious. And that's why we meditate. That's why we practice Kriya Yoga, the real fire, right? Every time we practice Kriya, we are creating that inner fire that invisibly burns the seeds of evil material tendencies. And that's why, along with the practice of Kriya Yoga and devotion and spiritual study, discrimination awakens, and that's the fire that burns up desire. And Guruji goes on to explain, and now there is also another beautiful element, another beautiful aspect of what does this fire do. Yogananda Ji explains, all effects or seeds of our past actions, karma, can be burned and destroyed in the fire of concentration, meditation, and the light of fire, the light of super consciousness. The moment we meditate, we practice Song Sa, Om to the best of our ability, Kriya Yoga, we feel calm, We feel a sense of expansion. That's when we gradually are moving into superconscious. That's when that inner light, that inner flame is lighted. That destroys all the material desires. That burns up karma. That's one of the reasons why we also practice Kriya. And fire illuminates. So, visualize this beautiful fire. What does the fire do? It purifies, it consumes, it illuminates. Discrimination does these three. Buddhi, the discriminative mind, purifies our motives. What do I really want? What is really my heart? What's the greatest desire? Purifying, like the fire purifies. The fire consumes. So as fire consumes wood into ashes, converts wood into ashes, it consumes our materiality. And so all the things that no longer need us, that we no longer want, they are gone. But lastly, possibly even more importantly, fire illuminates. It illuminates our choices. It sheds light. It helps us to make the right decisions. And so now I go into this deeper aspect to answer this question. Guruji says, sooner or later, as we move along through life, we feel like we are in a dark forest. Have you had that experience? It's dark, it's cold, it's not so pleasant. We can't see our way very well. Guruji often in his lectures would give these illustrations. So imagine, you are in this forest alone. It's dark. It's already very dark and it's getting nightfall. You only have a small little flashlight. The flashlight can only give a little beam ray of light in front of it. It's not much. And you stumble, you fall, you hurt yourself. You're starting to become anxious, fearful. You see in the distance certain things and you become very anxious and fearful. You don't know what it is. You can't find your way. But then you light a beautiful fire. Large spherical fire illuminates all around you. It's like when you light the light in place, you turn on the lights. Now I can see. And those things that were creating such fear in me, you can see they're only trees and rocks. And now I can see what is my path. And now also it becomes warmer and more comfortable, isn't it? That feeling when you turn the lights. So Guruji speaks about this in a beautiful way in one of his talks, how to guide your life with correct thinking. And he says, to really succeed in life and be happy and healthy and successful also on the spiritual path, we want to guide our thinking in a correct way. What do we use? Clear, calm reason, clear, calm discrimination, buddhi, and clear, calm intuition. And so in this talk, how to guide your life with correct thinking, Guruji says, together, reason, discrimination, intuition, shed the guiding light of truth and wisdom on the path we must follow through life to reach our divine goal. So you find that this is the 2022 annual issue of Self-Realization magazine, but this talk is also in the book that was released last year, Solving the Mystery of Life. I like this one because it's nice, this magazine. There's also a beautiful article by our beloved president, Brother Chidanandaji, maintaining our divine connection. That's what we're talking about. That to really burn all our material desires, to advance spiritually, to be happy, to be healthy, we want to maintain that divine connection. And there's also a beautiful article on leading with balance and spiritualizing family life. In this article, Guruji goes on to explain, if you keep your light of reason and wisdom and discrimination awake, ever burning, you cannot stumble on the path of life. People who go into the forest in the dark without light to show them the way stumble and fall. But if you go through life with the light of correct thinking, discrimination, intuition, you will not stumble in the jungle of material existence. It is the light of correct thinking that can defeat all enemies, of lasting happiness. Defeat all enemies of lasting happiness. And what are these enemies? For example, now the practical uses of discrimination. It comes down to, how do I spend my time? Where does my energy go? It's just as simple as that. Fire purifies our motives. Fire illuminates our choices. So what about this? What about that? Discrimination says, no, not this, not that, or maybe not now. Everything else can wait, right? There is a story about this devotee, this woman devotee who lived in the ashram during Guruji's time, possibly in the 40s. She loved going to the mountains. And she was constantly organizing outings with the other nuns to go to the mountains. And at one point, Guruji told her, if you spent as much time seeking God as you spent trying to go to the mountains, you would have found God by now. So how do we spend our time? Where does our energy go? You know, all the great men inwardly, they may not play, as far as we know, a real spiritual or religious role, but those who are really deeply connected with God, they had very clear inwardly this priority, God first. Everything else can wait. A devotee sent me some time ago the link to this documentary on the life of George Harrison of the Beatles. And I didn't know that just a few hours before he passed away, he had his wife, some close family members, friends close, and he said these words to them: always remember, everything else can wait, but our search for God cannot wait, and love one another. And in this YouTube video, I guess they didn't know, they said, these are words of George Harrison, but possibly you know, these are words of our Guru. They were in the frontispiece of the lessons many years ago, at least in the 80s when I started. Everything else can wait, but our search for God cannot wait. And where do you see them too, these words? Have you been at Lake Shrine? Did you walk around the lake? From Master's time, we have a sign with these words. Everything else can wait. Your search for God cannot wait. And have you seen, nearby we have many benches, meditation benches. And as I was told, and as I read in a biography of Priscilla Presley, the wife of Elvis Presley, she said that she and her husband, Elvis Presley, would come to Lake Shrine. Did you know that Elvis Presley had read their biography? He had become very interested in Guruji's teachings. And they would come regularly to Lake Shrine. And they would sit on those benches just by the sign. And in this biographical account, Priscilla would say, Elvis and I used to sit in the meditation garden at the Lake Shrine, meditate quietly for a while. And she says, I never seen Elvis this calm. He was so happy. On those occasions, Elvis would say, this is what we all need, a break from the craziness. Can we see his spiritual discrimination was becoming alive? Not this, not that, not this craziness. I want God. When he passed away, they found his copy of the Autobiography Yogi. And on page 277 of Elvis's copy of the Autobiography Yogi are the following words, scribbled in Elvis' handwriting. Guess what? Everything else can wait, but our search for God can't wait. Can't. Isn't it something? Yeah. And so also when I quote this saying, everything else can wait, God first, seek God first, seek God now. Again, you know who comes to my mind? Brother Anandamoy. I was a very young monk in the late 80s, early 90s when I was at the Mother Center, and he was like our spiritual father, lovingly interested in our highest spiritual welfare. And whenever he saw that we were getting distracted, like organizing too many outings to the beach of the mountains, he would really reprimand us, lovingly but firmly. I remember one occasion when in the early 90s, 93, 94, we had launched the Lake Shrine Project to build a new ashram, the new big temple that was inaugurated in 1996, a new retreat. And he would see that we were getting a little overly distracted in the material aspect of our life in the ashram, in our service. And one night in the satsanga, he called all of us and he said, you said you came here to find God, to seek God first, to seek God now. And I hear you all the time talking about this project, that project, the Lake Shrine Project. God is the project. He could be, those of you who have known him or heard him, he could be quite forceful. God is the project. Silence. Nobody would dare to say a word. And of course, this is the teaching of our Guru. Guruji says, when you are in touch with God, you will see all your desires mysteriously fulfilled. But you must seek Him first. Seek Him now. And then in this talk that you will find in the book Man's Eternal Quest, chapter The Desire that Satisfies All Desires, Guruji speaks first, when you show God that you are willing to sacrifice everything to know Him, He will come to you. And then later on he says, discrimination is the fire that burns up desire. And then Guruji has a poem. It's one of my favorite poems, When Will He Come? Meaning, when will God come to us? He starts out by saying, when every heart's desire, that's what we're talking about. When every heart's desire pales before the brilliancy of the flames of God's love, then He will come. When, in expectation of His coming, you are ever ready to fearlessly, joyously, grieflessly burn all desires in the fireplace of life, then He will come. Did you get that? When we are ready to burn all desires in the big fireplace of life, fearlessly, grieflessly, joyously, then He will come. And there is another sentence in between that now I want to add because it's so beautiful, so profound. And I use this stanza from this poem of Guruji, When Will He Come, in my own meditations, because we use everything. We use what we are, our desires, fulfilled or unfulfilled, our frustrations, our pain, our suffering, everything we throw in this big fireplace of life. So imagine every little desire you have is like a little flame. And we have flames everywhere. And then, we dilute the power of the fire. But if we toss all of these little lights, all of these little flames into the big fire of self-realization, as Guruji says, which should be fed daily through sadhana, then we have this huge fire that burns all desires, that uses our material desires as fuel, right? And then what happens? As we burn all desires in the fireplace of life, we may protect Him, God, from our freezing inner indifference. Then He will come. So imagine, we are here by the fireplace of our life with all these little desires, and our divine beloved, very humbly, shyly, is in the background. Guruji says God is very shy. God is very humble. Master says, jokingly, God has an inferiority complex. He thinks nobody wants him or her. So God stays at a distance when we are fulfilling all our material desires, pursuing all our worldly, earthly ambitions. But if we create this fire using all of our material desires, then we may protect our divine beloved from our freezing inner indifference. Then He, she comes. Isn't this beautiful? And so close your eyes a moment. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. Visualize that fire. The fireplace of your life. Now, this is very intimate and personal. You may have a desire for human love, for material possessions, for a new career, any material desires. See this desire as a flame, and you toss it in the large fireplace of life, in the fire of self-realization. And then there's a brighter, warmer, larger flame. It becomes warm, inviting. And the divine beloved comes from behind you. And so a practical example, you come back home from work, a long day in the office, and you open the refrigerator, you want to eat that large piece of cake from the previous night, and then you want to turn on your TV, watch the news, or scroll on Instagram or internet or whatever. But you take a deep breath in, you exhale. Let me have just a little tea, a light drink. Let me take a walk outside. A few simple exercises, then I want to sit down and meditate. God first. Not this, not that, or not now. Maybe later. That's what I've been practicing most of my life since I was a young student. I was really inspired by the chapter in the Autobiography of a Yogi when Guruji is preparing to come to the West on July 25th, 1920. He's praying deeply, and Babaji appears. And Babaji says, yes, you are the one who has to go to the West. And then Guruji says, no, I want to be with you. Please take me with you, Babaji. Do you remember what Babaji says to Swami Yogananda? Not now, some other time. So Guruji too had to practice discrimination and delaying, postponing the gratification, even of good desires. Not now, some other time. And so going back to the practical example, you may want to eat first, but you know that if you eat a large meal, then it's hard to meditate. If you start watching the news or scrolling the internet, then time will pass and you will get more restless and no spiritual practice. And God is waiting in the distance. Why? God first. That's what discrimination is. I remember once a family with a young girl came to visit Lake Shrine, where I've been residing and serving in recent years. And this girl loves swimming to the ocean just by the Lake Shrine. So at the end of the visit, the mother said, oh, honey, you've been such a good girl. Now we can go to the bakery, the pastry shop. You can have ice cream and cake. And she firmly said, no, Mom, first I want to go to the beach and swim. She knew, right? If you eat a big piece of cake and ice cream, then it's not that easy to swim. So her goal was clear. Keep your goal ever shining before you. And it's very easy. We keep asking ourselves, what truly is in my heart? What do I really want? What is the greatest prayer in my heart? Guruji says, in men's hearts, there are many prayers for money, fame, health, prayers for all manner of things. But the prayer that should be first in every heart is the prayer for God's presence. Silently, surely, as you walk on the path of life, you must come to the realization that God is the only object, the only goal that will satisfy you. For in God lies the answer to every desire of the heart. Next question. I've been an SRF student for 15 years. I'm progressing well at my own pace. I'm deeply devoted to Guruji and his teachings. I am a good person too. I help many from my heart. Yet, I am being pulled by sensual thoughts and desires beyond my control. Not sure what to do. Also, I have so much neck pain. It's hard for me to sit long like I used to in the past. So looking for solutions, ideas, perspectives. I have a strong desire to find God, though. Well, first thing, with all due respect, I'd like to tell this person, go find a good chiropractor to address the pain in the neck. As much as possible, let's try to stay healthy, exercise, Do whatever you need to do to stay healthy. As the ancient Romans used to say, mens sana in corpore sano. A healthy, strong mind in a healthy, strong body. Sometimes we, among counselors, have seen, for the sake of spirituality, people tend to postpone and delay seeing doctors, chiropractors. So take care of your health, and then take heart. Do not lose courage. I mean, reading your question, I can see the very sincerity, the depth of your devotion, and the very sincerity of your question shows that divine grace is already silently working in your life. You said at the end, I have a strong desire to find God. Do you know what Guruji would say about that? This strong desire for God. Guruji very clearly explained the greatest factor for success with God is to have the resolute desire. So begin there. Play your strengths. Begin with what is working with you. Desire for God. Now, an illustration. We have all of these thoughts, sensual thoughts, material desires. Keep in mind, like your consciousness is like the pure, clear blue sky. All of these thoughts, all of these desires are just like clouds. They come and go. They come and go. Don't take them too seriously. You may have heard this saying, you cannot keep birds from flying over your head, but you can keep them from building a nest in your hair. So that's our job as Yogi devotees. We can't really prevent dark, black birds from flying on top of our head. We can prevent clouds and storms to go into the sky of our life. But we remember, soon it will be over. It won't last. And I'm speaking here from experience. This is our life. It comes with the territory, so to speak. We all went through this phase where it seems almost overwhelming. All of these desires, possibly even from previous lives, material desires, and things that pull us down. But we have to continue. I remember Brother Chalanandaji, as a wise spiritual counselor to us younger monks, smiling and saying, just keep going. The way out is the way through. So the way out of these clouds, the way out of these states where we feel so worldly, so identified with our physical body, is true. It's through our spiritual practices. And so this leads us to another beautiful concept. The Guruji said, this is one of the greatest inspirations of my life. And I don't know you, but when a master, an avatar says, this was one of the greatest inspirations of my life, I pay attention. And you know what it is? And the way it dawned on me very clearly was many years ago when, as a young monk, Sri Dayamataji, our late president, would come and meet with us monastics. And in a satsanga, she too said, don't focus too much on your weaknesses. Don't concentrate too much on your faults or on your possible bad habits. Be aware of them, introspect, have a plan, but focus on the other side. She said, it's like you are in a dark cave. Again, you are in the darkness, and you grab a stick, and you pretend that by waving the stick around, you beat the darkness away. That's silly. That's stupid, right? What do? Light a fire again. And then darkness cannot exist where there is light. Bring in the light, darkness will disappear. And Guruji says, and these are his words, the best way to remove your weaknesses is not to think about them. Otherwise, you will be overwhelmed. Bring the light in. You will feel that darkness never was. And that thought is one of the greatest inspirations of my life. Isn't it something? It's also, I remember also when driving Brother Anandamoy to the Hidden Valley Ashram, where there were many young men, young devotees who were aspiring to join the ashram or just to go in the world, create a family. And often there was this question, brother, I love God. I want to go deeper in my meditations, in my spiritual practice, but I'm so tormented by these material thoughts and desires, by this restlessness. And he would say, I remember taking my notes, don't make this problem the center of your life so that you are completely identified with it, because that's Maya. Because Maya wants us to think, yes, I'm a sinner. You are not good. You're not going to be able to make it. And then we drop. We walk away. He would say, in spite of all human weaknesses, you are the soul, which is never affected by any of the outer experiences or thoughts of desires. The sky is not affected by the clouds. Keep affirming that. Make God the center of your life. Does it make sense? So that's our way, our way. And when we have that desire for God, then I assure you, it's only a matter of time when we begin to have that intimate, special, profound experience of God coming into our life. And that gives a sense of comparison. Oh, being with God is so much more fun, it's so much nicer. That's why Guruji would say again and again, cultivate your desire for God. Once a devotee went to Guruji Paramahansaji and said, my desire for God is very intense. And the master replied, that is the greatest blessing, to feel his pull at your heart. It is his way of saying, too long you have played with the toys of my creation. Now I want you with me. Come home. Don't we all like these words? Isn't that what we truly want? We want to go home. Right? We have suffered enough. And I was rereading a beautiful biography of a great woman saint, Saint Catherine of Siena. Since she was a young girl, she had these experiences of mystical union with Christ, her divine beloved. And in one of her poems, she says, God would not take no for an answer when every night he came to me asking me, I want you to dance with me. I want you to come home with me. Isn't it amazing? Men, women of the East, West, mystics of all traditions, in one way or another, they describe the same experience of light, rapturous joy, and love. Another woman saint said that when she was young, she had this experience of the divine light entering her heart. Divine light entered my heart from God's love. She was writing these words to a devotee who was doubting. So divine light entered my heart from God's love. I've seen what you want. It is there, a beloved of infinite tenderness. Again, don't you like it? Yeah? And then, these are Christian mystics. And then we go to Eastern mystics or Sufi masters. And one of my favorites is Hafiz and Rumi. I was reading again when he has this poem, when he says that lovers don't come together eventually at one point later in life. All the while they are in each other. So they enjoy being together. Lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They are in each other all along in their embrace. And then in another poem it says, I am in love with love, capital L, and love is in love with me. And so when we begin to have this experience of the divine with us, then it becomes much easier to let go of all other desires. Why? Because we want God. And we know that God can come to us, that God loves us as we are now. One last mystical poem. What is it that you want to change? Your hair, your face, your body. Why? God is so in love with you as you are, with all those things, that He may weep when they are gone. Very sweet, very simple, but so profound, isn't it? So a practical advice, when you feel really restlessness, sensual thoughts, material desires, take a deep breath in. You can do it with me. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. Pause. Mentally repeat, God, God, God. Pause. Concentrate on the heart. Feel that God is so in love with you as you are, with all those things. Again, deeply inhale. Exhale. God, God, God. Guruji says, once you experience the joy of God, He becomes real, more real to you than anything else. You find that awareness of His presence is more joyous than any pleasure of the senses, more tempting than any other temptation. And so when you feel that you're struggling, tell yourself, devotion, love for God, and struggle can coexist. The way out is the way through. When you feel all that discomfort, all that, let's call it even emotional pain, remember these words of Guruji, your love must be greater than your pain. By pain, we don't mean necessarily physical pain, but the restlessness, the emotional pain, the discomfort of feeling, I want God, I know I'm a soul, so why should I still experience that? Well, partly also it keeps us humble. It keeps us on our knees. God, I need you. Please help me. One day at a time. I end this question, the answer to this question, with a little story from the Desert Fathers. So there was this spiritual community, and there was a young man who deeply loved God, but he was tormented by the sensual thoughts and material desires. And one day he went to the abbot, the head of the monastery, and said, Father, it's better if I leave the ashram, the monastery. I keep being tormented by these material desires. I feel I'm guilty, I'm impure, I shouldn't be here. And the father didn't try to convince me to stay. He only said, well, do you think you can stay just one more week? And then you go. You go back to the world and you do whatever you want. Just stay one more week and then tell yourself, one day at a time. Today, I'll just do my best, no matter what happens. Because in a week, I'm leaving the spiritual path. And so the week passed. And the young man went to the abbot. And the abbot said, well, you proved to yourself you could stay one more week, living one day at a time. Would you like to stay one more week? He said, well, why not? And so he stayed one more week. And so this went on for a while. And then the abbot said, well, 1 week at a time, one day at a time, you have been here for some time. Would you like to stay one more month before you leave us? You go back to the world and you do whatever you want. And the young man said, okay, I'll stay one more month. One more month. 1 week at a time, one day at a time, not worrying. Well, sooner or later I go back to the world, I fulfill all my material desires. So he became relaxed, calm. And one night, he had a vision of the Divine Mother, and he was changed forever. And according to the legend, he became one of the most spiritual, most compassionate spiritual guides of the devotees at the time, because he had gone through that. So you see, sometimes we go through pain, difficulties, temptations, so that we become stronger. Then maybe we can speak from experience. I've been there, I've done that, I know what you're going through. The way out is the way through. Don't worry, it can be done, right? We speak from experience, we feel the vibration. Okay, quickly, question about exercise. This devotee asked, Master tells us to get vigorous exercise on a daily basis, but I don't remember he's ever saying what time of the day is best to exercise. Guruji emphasized regularity. Exercise is very important. You can exercise anytime. You may recall in the Autobiography of Yogi, he quotes Sri Yukteswar saying, Sri Yukteswar emphasized the value of Kriya Yoga, calmness, determination, simple diet, and regular exercise. And then there is a nice sweet letter of Guruji, Yoganandaji, to his first disciple in the United States, Dr. Lewis. Apparently, Dr. Lewis was going through some health issues, so Guruji wrote, I determined to exercise regularly. Why don't you try too? You see, that's the Guru's way. I'm exercising. Why don't you try too? So in the ashram, we generally exercise in the afternoon, evening. After the day, it helps us to, especially if we do office work, it's so nice to go out and exercise. Shridayamata said that in the afternoon, every afternoon, when we had finished our office duties, Guruji used to call us and say, "Come, let's go play." And they would play tennis, badminton, they would take walks, they would go swimming. So regularity in exercise. You seem to prefer exercise in the morning. That's wonderful. But I would like to warn you, when we wake up in the morning, first meditate. Otherwise, the whole world will crowd in. Some people say, well, if I exercise, then I may feel calmer, less restless energy. Yes and no. Because then you walk out, you jog, you go to the gym. At least try to have a first period of meditation as you awake in the morning. And so the last question, briefly. When I first came to the path and read Autobiography of a Yogi, attaining cosmic consciousness, the state of samadhi was my goal, as Master so vividly described. Over the years, I became more realistic, or maybe I should say complacent. I've settled for feeling a little peace and joy in meditation. Now that I am in my senior years, I'm wondering if my lowering the bar like this was a mistake, and if I now need to reinvigorate my effort and reset the goal for samadhi bliss as originally planned. Could you give me your thoughts on this? Did Master ever speak to this situation with senior monastics or devotees? Well, Guruji was very, very understanding, but he would not take or accept any excuses, no matter whether you were 16 years old or 60 or 80 years old. He would say, just do your best. Start where you are, do what you can, use what you have. This is a beautiful and very sincere question, because obviously it expresses something that many devotees may quietly feel after many years on the path. The time comes when we have to introspect and reset our spiritual goals. And we have to remember also that it's not just something that we are doing, it is someone, right? It's not just practicing techniques, it is meeting someone. Do you remember in the story in the Autobiography of a Yogi, when Guruji is a young man, he goes to visit Baduri Mahashaya, they're meditating deeply for a while, and then Baduri Mahashaya quietly says, you go often into the silence, but have you developed Anubhava, which is direct perception of God? And Guruji explained, the Master was reminding me to love God more than meditation. Do not mistake the technique for the goal. Love God more than meditation. And is He here with us? So it's not just something, it's someone. If we tell ourselves this, then every step of the way there is joy and love. Like this mystic saint said, every step of the way is heaven, because he said, meaning Jesus the Master, I am the way, right? Remember, lovers don't finally meet somewhere at the end. They are in each other all along. Now, it begins now. And so when we shift from, well, one day I'll achieve samadhi, one day I will achieve cosmic consciousness, and yes, it's going to happen for all of us. But think of it, what is samadhi? Union. First, we have to be united with love. Guruji speaks very clearly. What does really makes us one with God, unites us with God? Love. So there has to be that loving, joyous anticipation. Now, he, she, the Divine Mother is going to be with me. I end with this little story. A senior devotee, a wonderful elderly lady, she started on the path when she was 75 years old. She couldn't meditate long because of some physical conditions, but she prayed. Every day she picked different prayers from Guruji's writings. And her favorite was this one: Beloved God, teach my heart to pray. Teach my soul to feel that at any moment all doors may open and your presence be revealed. And she really lived it. She really believed it. She told me she would repeat this morning, noon, and night. Beloved God, teach my heart to pray. Teach my soul to feel. Any moment, all doors may open, your presence be revealed. If you pay attention, even in this prayer, as in many prayers, Guruji doesn't talk about the mind or restlessness. Heart and soul, teach my heart to pray. Teach my soul to feel. And so, as we end our satsanga, I read again from this booklet by Sri Daya Mataji, Enter the Quiet Heart, creating a loving relationship with God. Take a deep breath in, exhale, close your eyes, concentrate at the heart center. Now quietly listen to these words. If we have established a sweet and tender inner relationship with God, we shall never feel alone or forsaken. There is always that someone by our side, a true friend, a true love. In whatever aspect you conceive of the divine, God is that to you. So call to God from the quiet center of your heart. That sweet presence of the divine beloved becomes our supreme reality. It brings complete fulfillment. It transforms our lives. Now fold your hands, place them on your heart, gently press at the heart center. Keep the eyes at the spiritual eye. Take a deep breath in, exhale. Feel the loving presence of God in your heart, now, always with you. Now, please pray aloud after me. Beloved God, teach my heart to pray. Teach my soul to feel that at any moment, all doors may open and your presence be revealed. Om. Peace. Amen. I hope you enjoyed the satsanga. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, and I wish you a wonderful continuation of the Convocation Week. And if you happen to visit Lake Shrine, come to see me. I'll be happy to say hello to you. Jai Guru, God bless us all.